Hello everyone, this is Laura from Laura's Lovely Gifts. It's been a while, but I have so many new things planned for 2024, so many new videos planned. In this, the first video of 2024, I'm going to show you how I created these 3D numbered trays which we used for my 40th birthday this past fall. The Cricut features used in this project include the font, which is Arial Black, shapes, align, and slice. The supplies and materials used in this project are my Cricut Maker, the Cricut Premium Fine Point Blade, Cricut Light Grip Mat, that's the blue one, cardstock, scotch tape, cardboard, duct tape, scissors, and a box cutter. We're here in the Cricut Design Space window, and before we begin, I just want to show you again the font that I used was Arial Black. For something like this, the simpler the better, because you're going to be doing a lot of maneuvering with the cardboard later, so you don't need weird curvy edges on the numbers that aren't necessary, or tails or anything. I went with 16 inches high. That's from the top of the number to the bottom of the number. I figured for the use as a tray, that was a great size. If you're using this for anything else, you can certainly go bigger or smaller. And then the rectangle at the bottom right now is 11 by 8, which is a little bit smaller than the cardstock sheet, which is 11 by 8.5. What you're going to see here is that I am going to slice the 4 and the 0 so that I can cut them out on the cardstock. So I need to take this rectangle and I'm going to make it a little bit wider than the numbers, the 4 and the 0. So they measure about 22 inches. I made it 25, so a little bit hung over on either side. I'm now top aligning everything so that the 4 and the 0 go to the top of the rectangle. Now we're going to select our 4 and our rectangle and slice. We're going to do the same thing with our 0 and our rectangle. Then we're going to get rid of the pink, which is the part that we sliced. So all we have is our 4 and our 0 now cut to fit on a piece of cardstock. So you'll see I went into the make it screen, and you can see on a regular 12 by 12 mat, this is how they fit. The numbers were cut on a 24 by 12 mat, but my cardstock was still only 8.5 by 11, which is why I had to slice the numbers in Design Space. I removed them from the mat. I taped them together. You can see the 0 is a little curved. That's because of how I removed it from the mat, but no worries. Once we get to the next step, it laid totally flat. Now we're going to start the cutting and tracing of the actual trays. I used just a regular Amazon shipping box. You can see my cute little supervisor in the background there. And I took, so where you see the flaps, they're connected to the sides of the box. And then there's another flap on the part touching the carpet. So I took my scissors, which you can see in the middle photo, and I divided that front part that you're seeing. I cut that off of each side. So when I did that, you see I have the flaps in the third picture. So those are the sides of the box and the flaps that were originally on the top and bottom of the box, because it's all connected and it's the size that I need for the tray. So they are bigger than 16 inches essentially. Here is where I trace the numbers onto the cardboard. The folds in the cardboard won't matter in the end because of how sturdy the actual tray is when it's put together. So I just laid the 4 on top of the cardboard and I traced with a Sharpie marker. And you can see in the second photo, we have the 4 and the 0 traced out, nothing else done yet. The next step, I decided how high I wanted, or how deep I wanted my tray. And that was 2.5 inches. So I took a 2.5 inch strip of cardboard that I measured a few notches to make sure that it was 2.5 inches all the way across. And I cut that piece off of one of the pieces of cardboard. From there, I measured the sides of the numbers. And what you can't really see is that I did do it all the way around to just get a general idea of what the 2.5 inch border around the entire number would be. The next step took a little bit of thinking and maneuvering, and I had to see which parts you were able to border and cut out and have them flap up in order to create the sides. Now know that the entire 4 is not going to be able to be covered. Take the right side of the 4, for instance. You can do the side of it, and then you can do the side of where it comes out there in the middle. But that little horizontal part right there, we're going to have to patch, basically, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is where we get to cutting. You're going to use your X-Acto knife or your box cutter, whatever really sharp blade you have, to cut around the outside edge of your number, including even the spots where you're not going to use as the edge of your tray. Now make sure you have either a surface that you regularly cut on that it doesn't matter, or I used another piece of cardboard to place underneath the number as I was cutting to take any of the nicks or when the box cutter went through, so I didn't damage the surface that I was cutting on. After I got the whole outside cut out, I went in to where I knew certain edges would be. So like you see up at the top right-hand corner of the 4, there's going to be the top part that folds over and then the side part that folds over. This is where I cut those pieces out individually, keeping them attached to the 4. And then the parts where it's going to fold, where it's still attached to the 4, is where I used the edge of my scissors to easily score it and fold the edges up. Now we're going to put everything together. So you may notice on your number, and this is the part I mentioned before, not everything is going to have a perfect border going all the way around. That's because, like with my number 4, the 2.5-inch border was not able to go all the way around the 4 without some of the parts hitting another part that was needed for the sides of our tray. To fix that, I had other strips that were 2.5 inches. I cut a piece that I thought should be a little bit bigger than what was needed there, and then just kind of trimmed it down. I scored it so that it folded nicely, and then just trimmed down on either side until it fit perfectly, that I could just put that part in like a puzzle piece. Our next issue to tackle was the center of the 4. You'll see it cut out on the left-hand picture, and on the right side picture is the piece that I cut out of the 4. I needed to figure out how I was going to get the 2.5-inch strip inside of there and have it fit perfectly. My solution to that was to have one of my 2.5-inch strips, and I laid down the inside of the 4, so the triangle. I started at the edge of the strip and I marked where the next corner went. Then I just rotated the triangle so that the short part was along the strip, marked that, and then marked our third part the same way. I hope that makes a little bit of sense, judging by the 2 pictures you have here. First is the triangle laying against the strip, and then you have the strip after I've marked and scored it. I then took that strip that had been folded and cut to match the inside of the 4, and I put a layer of duct tape over the edge that was going to be the top of the tray, because I'm going to do that with the outside edge of the whole tray, but I figured while this part was laying flat, that was the easiest way to do it. And then I folded it together so that it would resemble the triangles you see in the second photo, and then taped those sides together. For assembly for the rest of the 4, I taped over the top edges to smooth them, because you know when you cut a piece of cardboard how it's rigid in the middle. And then I taped all of the pieces on. On this you can see that the inside of the 4 is taped at the bottom of the tray, and then also I did the underneath to make sure that it was sturdy. Because the 0 has curved edges, unlike the 4, we're not going to be able to do that 2.5-inch border all the way around. My solution to that was to cut other strips that were 2.5 inches wide and curl them really tightly so that I could lay them around the edge of the 0 and they would create the border that way, or the edge of the tray. And then I just taped it as I went to make sure I did little pieces of tape so that I wasn't getting lumps in the tape from it trying to curve around the edge of the 0. I did that for the inside and the outside of the 0, and that seemed to work perfectly. And that's it. They're done. This project did take a lot of time, a lot of thought process, and definitely a lot of patience until I was done. I took 2 days to do it because I was doing other party prep. Until I figured out a solution for the 0, I needed to just take a night and take a break from it. But that's how I came up with the rolling of the cardboard, and that ended up working so perfectly. You can see here in a photo that my neighbor took during the party, because I totally forgot to take a photo of the finished product, but I lined the inside with tin foil thinking I would just put the fruits and veggies inside. However, because of the duct tape and the cardboard, I still didn't feel like it was totally food safe. So I used little plastic containers that I had around the house, or you might want to just go out and grab. They have little containers at the dollar store if you want to go that route. Now, if you're not putting food in it, you can line this any way you want. You can paint it, you can put contact paper in it, you could use adhesive vinyl, whatever you think is going to work, make it your own. Since I only use these for one day, because you only turn 40 once, I did gift them to a friend of mine who will be turning 40 next month. So if you do make one of these creations, please tag me in your creation on Instagram or Facebook so I can see what you came up with. And while you're here, take a moment to subscribe and give the video a like and comment on it and let me know what you thought. Also, take a look at some of our other videos. I cannot wait to show you everything I have planned for this year. I hope you all have a very happy and healthy 2024. Thank you.